So, hello and welcome back again to the next part of the session in which we are talking about the deamination of amino acids. Now, see, in our first reaction, we have already seen that the deamination of amino acid or the removal of this amino acid, amino group, can be catalyzed by two different reactions. One was referred to as transamination that we have seen the transfer of the amino group from one amino acid to the keto group of another amino acid forming a new amino acid. That one was being referred to as transamination. There are three amino acids that do not undergo transamination. Very important. Twice this question has been asked, two times in different entrance examination. Okay, so this is very important. Lysine, threonine, and the third one that is referred to as the proline. This is very important. Just a star. Okay, just putting stars here and there. Okay, so then we have read about aminotransferases, how aminotransferases act. What are aminotransferases? Those are transaminases. We have seen the function of pyridoxal 5-phosphate. Another very important question. Nowadays, pyridoxal 5-phosphate is not given an option, but instead of pyridoxal 5-phosphate, they used to give an option vitamin B6. Another very important question is about the formation of the Schiff's base. That what is Schiff's base and how does Schiff's base act? Okay, so how does the Schiff's base formation takes place? It takes place when the amino group of lysine residue reacts with the pyridoxal 5-phosphate. We have already seen all these things. Now see, we were talking about glucose aniline cycle. So see, in the case of muscles, the glucose gets converted into pyruvate, and in the case of muscles, the pyruvate getting converted into alanine. Once the alanine has been produced, then this alanine can move into the blood, and in the blood, it is being transferred to the liver. From the blood, it is being transferred to the liver. In the liver, this alanine can again get transformed to the glucose to the pyruvate molecule. Pyruvate molecule is having the structure CH3 C oh sorry CH3 CO. CO means C double bond O. CH3 CO C double OH. Okay, C double OH. So this group which is being produced is referred to as the pyruvate. Okay, so this pyruvate, when this carbon atom will undergo transamination reaction. Okay, this pyruvate undergoing transamination reaction, then it was forming the alanine, and this alanine consists of C double OH. Okay, this is C double OH that is present. There is the methyl group that is present, CH3. Okay, at the place of this keto group, there is a group that is present that is referred to as the amino group, NH2 group. Okay, and along with this NH2 group, what is present? There is an hydrogen atom which is present. You can look at this particular structure. This carbon which is present in the center is referred to as the C alpha carbon atom. This is the complex molecule that is being produced. Okay, so this is the amino acid that undergoes transamination reaction and leads to the formation of pyruvate, and this pyruvate can get converted into the glucose molecule. Okay, now here would be talking about another reaction that is referred to as oxidative deamination. I have already told you that there are two methods of deamination. One was referred to as transamination, another one was referred to as oxidative deamination. So dear friends, we have already seen the transamination reaction. That what is transamination? Now we will be talking about oxidative deamination. That how does oxidative deamination takes place and what is this oxidative deamination? So here you can look at oxidative deamination. Oxidative deamination requires an enzyme that is referred to as glutamate, as the name indicates. In this process, oxidation takes place. As the oxidation takes place, the amino acid gets converted into an alpha keto acid. Because of oxidation, the amino group is being removed in the form of ammonium ion. Okay, so the amino group is going to be removed in the form of an ammonium ion. This is how the oxidation is going to take place. Okay, now you can look at the amino acid that is present. The amino acid that is present is referred to as glutamate. It is this glutamate that undergoes oxidative deamination. When this glutamate undergoes oxidative deamination, it leads to the formation of a molecule that is referred to as alpha keto glutarate. Because of nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate, this NADP is involved. Now, this glutamate dehydrogenase is a specific enzyme. Is an enzyme that do not differentiate between NAD and NADP positive. Okay, this is the only enzyme that do not differentiate between NAD and NADP positive. It is the only enzyme in the world that do not differentiate in between both these substrates. Okay. Deamination occurs mainly through the oxidative deamination of glutamate by glutamate dehydrogenase. The reaction involves an oxidizing agent, and the oxidizing agent can be NAD or NADP positive. Okay. Glutamate dehydrogenase is allosterically inhibited by GTP and NADP and activated by ADP and NAD positive. So what we have to remember about this particular enzyme is that this enzyme has a positive allosteric modulator. That positive allosteric modulator is referred to as ADP and NAD. Now this is very important. ADP, or it could be even NAD positive, NAD positive, NAD positive, NAD positive. Okay, these are the positive allosteric modulator. Now see this, ADP and NAD positive indicates that there is a condition in the cell that the cell do not have adequate amount of ATP present molecules. Then what is going to happen? Then the amino acid is going to be degraded. The first substrate to be degraded for producing energy is carbohydrate, followed by lipids. And the last substrate molecules to be degraded are the proteins. Now see this, this is very important. The first substrate, I'm writing substrate like this so that you can understand it out. The first substrate to be broken down in metabolic reactions are carbohydrate. Okay, carbohydrates, followed by lipids, and the last are the proteins, are the amino acid, are the proteins. Okay, because proteins are going to be degraded in the form of amino acids. Okay, and it is this amino acid that undergoes oxidation or undergoes degradation. See, so note, very important note is there. Amino acid undergoes this oxidative deamination only when you didn't have carbohydrate, you didn't have lipid present in your body. Now supposingly you go to a hunger strike. ठीक है, अगर आप भूखे बैठे लग जाए, if you move to a hunger strike, if you are not taking any food material, then what is going to happen? Firstly, carbohydrates from your body will be eliminated. Okay, followed by lipids from your body will be degraded. At last, what is going to happen? The proteins of the body will also be degraded. पहले आपकी बॉडी की कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स खत्म हो जाएंगे, फिर लिपिड खत्म हो जाएंगे और लास्ट में प्रोटीन्स भी खत्म हो जाएंगे. So all the different types of molecules, biomolecules will be degraded. So proteins are the last biomolecules to be degraded. So when the cellular ADP is very high, cell is not able to survive, it do not have any ATP, or the cellular NAD is very high, then only they signal the glutamate dehydrogenase to at least and ultimately oxidatively deaminate certain proteins of the cell so that the cells can survive. This is the last important point. Thus, note, proteins are the last substrates to be oxidized. Substrates to be oxidized via glutamate dehydrogenase. Okay. Now, there have been three questions that have been two to three questions which have been asked. In the first question which was being asked, which was the last substrate to be oxidized, proteins. Anybody can answer it. In the next year, the question which was being asked, proteins are the last substrate, but they are being oxidized by which enzyme? The enzyme was glutamate dehydrogenase. So probably you will remember these two lines, those which are very important. Okay. Now we have to talk about, now see what we have done. We have removed the amino group, but now what is remaining? We have already removed the amino group either by oxidative deamination or by transamination. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to remove or degrade this alpha keto acid. देखो हमने अभी अमीनो ग्रुप तो हटा ही दिया है, अब हमें अल्फा कीटो एसिड को डिग्रेड करना है ना। हाउ वी आर गोइंग टू डिग्रेड दिस अल्फा कीटो एसिड? We are going to degrade this alpha keto acid via a cycle, and that cycle is commonly called as urea cycle. Okay, so we are going to degrade this group via urea cycle. Okay, this is very important. Now, just to have a look at it, you can also look here. See what has been done up till now. Up till now, this has been done. See, just a second, remove all the annotations. Okay, now up till now, free amino acid proteins have been degraded by proteases. Free amino acids have been produced. These free amino acids have been further degraded into ammonia and alpha keto acid. अभी तक हमने प्रोटीन को लेके तोड़ दिया है अमीनो एसिड में से अमीनो ग्रुप अलग कर दिया है और अल्फा कीटो एसिड अलग कर दिया। Now this alpha keto acid will get converted into citric acid and the water and ATP molecules will be produced. This all is going to take place in the case of citric acid cycle. Now where this ammonia is going to find its use, ammonia will either enter into the nitrogenous base biosynthesis reactions or will enter into the urea cycle. Now, which type of biosynthesis reaction? The purine and the pyrimidine biosynthesis reaction, especially the pyrimidine biosynthesis. Okay, there was an enzyme, pyrimidine biosynthesis. Okay, now this pyrimidine biosynthesis has already been taught to you. So can you just tell me which was the first enzyme that was involved in the case of pyrimidine biosynthesis? Any student who can answer me? Anybody of you is studying or not? हाँ, कोई पढ़ भी रहा है कि नहीं पढ़ रहा है कि सब लोग ऐसे ही बस बैठे हुए हैं यहाँ पर? pyrimidine biosynthesis की रिएक्शन के अंदर पहला एंजाइम कौन सा था बताएं? Which was the first enzyme that was taking part in the case of pyrimidine biosynthesis reaction? The enzyme was referred to as the carbamoyl phosphate synthetase. अरे भैया क्या पढ़ रहे हो तुम लोग? What the hell you are doing with your life? Please be focused here. The enzyme was carbamoyl phosphate synthetase. Okay, I have already told you. This has been told to you. Okay, the enzyme that one was involved in the case of pyrimidine biosynthesis was carbamoyl phosphate synthetase type second. Carbamoyl phosphate synthetase second. Carbamoyl phosphate synthetase second was the enzyme. Can you remember the reactions? Now you didn't know the name of the enzyme. How can you remember the reactions? But still, if anybody of you is studying hard enough to earn degrees from JNU and from IITs, then you should remember them all. Okay. And the reaction that was involved in this particular reaction pathway was the first one in which carbamoyl phosphate was being biosynthesized. After the formation of carbamoyl phosphate, it was aspartate transcarbamylase that one was being biosynthesized. Aspartate transcarbamylase was being biosynthesized, and then dihydroorotate, orotate, OMP, and lastly UMP was also being biosynthesized. But you guys are not studying at all, dear students. Please try to study at least. कम से कम बैठ के पढ़ो तो सही भाई. Please at least try to study. Okay, but you are not working hard enough. Now please, you listen here. See, we have been talking about all these different types of reactions. Now, this is carbamoyl phosphate synthetase type second. There is another enzyme, the first enzyme of the urea cycle. The first enzyme of the urea cycle that is present is commonly referred to as carbamoyl phosphate synthetase type 1. Okay, this enzyme is carbamoyl phosphate synthetase type 1, and this enzyme is present in the mitochondria of the hepatic cell. Where it is present? In the mitochondria. The site is mitochondria of hepatocytes. Okay, this is present in the hepatocytes, and it is present in the mitochondria of the hepatocytes. So both of these enzymes that you are studying here, both of these enzymes are actually, dear all students, they are actually isoenzymes in nature. Now what is an isoenzyme? You must know. please do try to write it down. Try to write it down. You will have my recorded versions of the lectures also. You can note it down from there also. Okay, these both enzymes are actually isoenzymes. Isoenzymes. Now, what is this isoenzyme that we have to study? Yeah, there is a question. Similar structure? No, that's not a pointer. The isoenzymes do not have a similar structure. That's not a compulsion. The isoenzyme, I have already told those who were in offline classes, isoenzyme, these are another form of the enzyme, another form of the same enzyme, which performs the same catalytic reactions, but differs from each other, differs from each other on the basis on but differs from each other just a second but differs from each other on the basis of their structure, okay, or sequence. See, these amino acids, these are the enzymes that performs the same catalytic reactions, but they differ from each other on the basis of their structure or sequences. Why? Because these are encoded by different genes. These are encoded by different genes present on present on the same or different chromosome, on the same or different chromosome. Okay, this is how isoenzymes are present. Please do try to note it down. This is very important. So isoenzymes are another form of the same enzymes that catalyzes the same biochemical reaction. Just a second, let me put them at their proper positions so that you can understand them. Okay, so this is carbonyl phosphate synthetase type 2, carbonyl phosphate synthetase type 1. These are the same enzyme which performs the same catalytic reactions, but differs from each other on the basis of their structure as well as sequence. Okay, so they are being encoded by the same genes or by the different genes. So when you are talking, Namrita, about their similar structure, so because they differs from each other on the basis of their structure and sequence, that means their structure is not same, their sequence is not same. In fact, the genes that are forming these isoenzymes are also different, but they are going to catalyze the same biochemical reaction. Now, how these isoenzymes were produced in the prehistoric past? In the prehistoric past, the genetic material was present in the form of DNA as it is present now. Now, supposingly there is a gene, and this gene is of critical importance. This gene undergoes duplication. Okay, this gene will be duplicated. Now, when this gene will be duplicated, as well as through thousands of years, it will induce mutations within itself. Now, supposingly these are the two different copies of the gene, and then within thousands of years, there were several different types of mutations that occurred in one part of the genome. Okay, while mutations were absent in the other part of the genome, then what is going to happen? This will form another gene. This will form another type of a gene, another type of an enzyme, okay, whose structure might be different. But because the mutations have occurred at certain positions, that it has not disrupted its enzymatic activity, so their substrate will be same. The substrate is same, the product is same, but what has happened? The sequence is different and the structure of the enzyme is also different. Okay, this is the other enzyme. Its structure is different, its sequence is different, but the substrate and the products are the same. Okay, so you can take a snapshot now of this particular picture. This is very important. Any other query? If you have any other query, now listen in Hindi also. देखो बच्चों, आइसो एंजाइम वो एंजाइम्स हैं जो सेम बायोकेमिकल रिएक्शंस को कैटलाइज करते हैं, क्योंकि करोड़ों साल के अंदर इनके अंदर म्यूटेशंस होते चले गए. पहले इनमें डुप्लीकेशन से बने थे, उसके अंदर म्यूटेशन होने लग गए. एज म्यूटेशंस अकर्ड, so that lead to the formation of two different forms of the enzyme. Okay, because of mutations there were two different forms of the enzyme that were being produced. So are you all satisfied? Have you understood the isoenzyme concept? Okay, this is a very important concept. More than 2 to 3 number of questions have been always asked from this isoenzyme concept in one or the other entrance examination. Okay, So I'm just removing all the annotations. You will get the recording version also, na? So there is no problem at all. Now, please let me move forward. Now this is all over, this is all over, this is what we have studied, this is what we have studied. Now the next cycle that we are going to study is the urea cycle. The urea cycle is okay. Before moving to the urea cycle, let me complete certain basics. See, the urea cycle is going to be the end of this particular chapter. Okay, then there will be certain condition of hyperammonia, regulation of urea cycle, and catabolism of amino acid. So there, here the chapter ends. Okay, so just tomorrow evening class, this chapter is going to be ended. Please, 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 on Monday you have your test. This time the test will be through Google form, and there will be a time period of just 30 minutes to answer 40 questions. Okay, so please do attempt all the different questions of the MCQ, as well as the sheet has also been forwarded to you. I have forwarded a sheet of biochemistry to you all from Catalyst. That is, the DPP has been forwarded to you. Okay, so solve the DPP, as well as two other books. Two other books have also been determined from where you can solve the different MCQs. I will be forwarding all those books to your group also, and you can look at those books. Okay, so on Monday you have your test. Okay, now please look here. See, this is what we have studied. Now we are going to talk just about the cycle that is referred to as the urea cycle. Now, what is urea cycle? Now, the living organism, excrete excess amount of nitrogen that is present in their body. Why they excrete the excess amount of nitrogen which is present in their body? See, when we are growing, we require nitrogen. But once the growth has been completed, for example, all of us are adolescent. Now our growth is completed. हम सभी लोग एडोलिसेंट है, हमारी ग्रोथ कंप्लीट हो चुकी है, तो अब आगे ग्रोथ तो होगी नहीं, तो क्या हो जाएगा, एक्सेस नाइट्रोजन विल बी एलिमिनेटेड. So further growth is not going to take place, and thus excess nitrogen is going to be eliminated. Now, how excess nitrogen is going to be eliminated? The excess nitrogen can be eliminated in the form of simplest form, just like ammonia, for via diffusion. Many aquatic organisms, including all the different types of protozoans, whether it is amoeba, whether it is euglena, whether it is any other organisms, they will secrete ammonia, and that ammonia is going to be dissolved in water and will be lost from their body surface. Okay, now there are different types of living organisms on the basis of their method to remove ammonia. Ammonotelic are the one which secrete ammonia. Ureotelic, which excrete urea. Uricotelic, which excrete uric acid. So these are the different types of organisms which are present. Okay, urea is formed from ammonia, carbon dioxide, and aspartate in a cyclic reaction, and that reaction is commonly called as the urea cycle. So urea is being produced in a cyclic reaction, and that's commonly called that cycle is called as urea cycle. And this cycle is also referred to as the Hans Crabbe-Henseleit cycle. Okay, this cycle is also commonly referred to as the Crabbe-Henseleit cycle that is being involved. Now, let us just talk about the cycle. Where does the cycle takes place? The formation of urea takes place within the liver, within the hepatocytes, and it is being excreted out of the body via the kidneys. Kidneys will filter out this urea out of the body. Now, how does the process takes place, and how does this urea is being eliminated from the body, and firstly, how is it being produced in the body? That we have to see. So for that, we have to look at the biochemical reaction, which is referred to as the urea cycle. And so we will be talking about urea cycle from Lippincott, because it is here that it is given in great detail. You can look here. You can look here. Now see this. This is the urea cycle that is present. Now how this urea cycle is going to work, that we have to see. Now in this urea cycle, what you are finding is that, just a second. Okay, probably you can look at the urea cycle, the entire urea cycle. I'm trying to set it on a single page. You can visualize it on a single page, then it would be better. Okay, that is why I'm reducing the size a bit more. Okay, now it's fine. Now you can see in this particular pathway what is going to happen. In this particular pathway, firstly you can determine that the urea is being eliminated. Where is urea? Here is the urea which has been eliminated. This is the sorry, just let me take another color. Yes, there is any query? Sir, please zoom. Okay, I can zoom in. I will zoom in, but just for a second. See, this is the urea which is being eliminated in the urea cycle. So this urea is being eliminated. It moves into the bloodstream, and from the bloodstream, from the blood, it will be excreted out from the body through through the kidneys. Kidneys will excrete it out. Now I'm going to zoom in. Okay. Okay, now it's fine. Okay, now we can move forward. And now see what is going to happen in this particular cycle. Let me move from the first point. Where is the first point? This is the first point. See, carboyl phosphate synthetase type 1 enzyme. Okay, now see, this is type 1 enzyme. And if you look at the pathfinder in my previous videos, where when I was talking to you about nucleic acid biosynthesis, there the enzyme was carboyl phosphate synthetase type 2. Okay, so let us just finish this particular cycle. In this cycle, what is going to happen? 2 ATP and an ammonia group is going to react together along with carbon dioxide. Okay, and this will lead to the biosynthesis of first compound that would be referred to as carboyl phosphate in the presence of an enzyme that is referred to as carboyl phosphate synthetase. As you can assume from the name of the name of the enzyme being कार्बोल फॉस्फेट सिंथेटेज. जैसे कि आप नाम से पता कर सकते हैं कार्बोल फॉस्फेट सिंथेटेज क्या बनाने वाला है, कोई कार्बोल फॉस्फेट बनाने वाला है. इट विल बायोसिंथेसाइज कार्बोल फॉस्फेट मॉलिक्यूल. Okay, so here where from this ammonia is being introduced into the process, ammonia is being introduced into the urea cycle by oxidative deamination or via transamination. So this ammonia is being introduced by two different processes. One was referred to as oxidative deamination, another one was referred to as the transamination reactions. Those were the two different processes from which this ammonia was being produced. Okay, so I'm just going to add both those processes. So this ammonia was being introduced either by oxidative deamination or by transamination or via transamination. So these are the two different processes from which this ammonia was being produced. Just a second. This is oxidative deamination or transamination that is going to take place. And once the ammonia has been produced, the ammonia is going to react with carbon dioxide. When it is going to react with carbon dioxide, it will form a first molecule, and that molecule, the first stable compound that is being produced from the urea cycle, is referred to as carboyl phosphate. This is the first stable compound that is being produced from the urea cycle. And this stable compound which is being produced is referred to as the carboyl phosphate molecule. Okay, see this how the reaction takes place. The nitrogen atom binds to the carbon atom and the phosphate atom, and this molecule is called as carboyl phosphate. Okay, this reaction is a non-spontaneous reaction, thus it requires actually 3 ATP. But here the work is being catalyzed by two molecules of ATP. The two ATPs are going to catalyze this particular reaction, and it will lead to the formation of carboyl phosphate and getting attached to C. Now, how to remember this? What could be the trick for the attachment to take place in the case of carboyl phosphate? You draw the structure of carboyl phosphate. You will always keep phosphate separated, okay? Because you know that phosphate will always remain separated. Now, you cannot place N in between. Why you cannot place N in between? Now see, when you place N in between, then what happens? Then you cannot satisfy the valency of carbon, okay? As well as where would be the nitrogen valency be satisfied? Nitrogen has a valency of 3. Now it cannot form bonds with carbon, 2 with hydrogen and another one with oxygen. And plus nitrogen atoms are always kept at the periphery so that they can be effectively removed. Now you can look here at the structure NH2CO. And what is the formula for urea? NH2CO NH2. So if I can add another NH2 molecule here, and then I can effectively form urea molecule just by elimination reaction, and this NH2 is being added by another non-standard amino acid residue, and that non-standard amino acid residue is referred to as ornithine. This is another non-standard amino acid residue which is present. Ornithine reacts with carmoyl phosphate and it leads to the formation of a complex compound, and that compound is referred to as citrulline. Now see, this ornithine reacts with carmoyl phosphate. The phosphate is being removed. This phosphate is being removed. This part of the biochemical, sorry, the entire structure has been labeled. This part of the biochemical reaction, the phosphate, sorry, again, I will have to remove this. Okay, so this part, the phosphate are being removed here in the form of inorganic phosphates. So they have been removed. Now there is carbon and nitrogen. Carbon and nitrogen has been joined to ornithine. Ornithine. Now how can you remember the structure of ornithine? Ornithine is referred to as delta amino group containing amino acid. See, alpha, this would be beta, then there would be gamma, alpha, sorry, the center carbon is referred to as the alpha carbon. Just a second. This is referred to as alpha, this is referred to as beta, this is referred to as gamma, and this is referred to as delta. So delta amino group containing amino acid is called as ornithine. So ornithine can be remembered by a trick, and that trick is delta amino group containing amino acid. Its trick is, I cannot draw delta here, but you can just recognize it out. I will draw P. Okay, no, I cannot use the term delta. I cannot have the delta. There is no delta on keyboard, na? Okay, so delta amino group containing NH4 containing amino acid. Amino group containing amino acid. Group containing amino acid. Okay, so this is delta amino group containing amino acid, that is referred to as ornithine. Now over this delta amino group, because this is alpha, this is beta, this is gamma, this is delta. If you can remember that epsilon amino group containing amino acid was lysine. I just told you that lysine has epsilon amino group. Okay, and it has only just delta amino group. This is gamma and this is delta. Okay, just a second. This is the delta that is present. This is delta. Okay, so now see this is the structure that has been produced, and it is this structure that has to be removed. It is this structure, NH2CO NH2. NH2CO NH2 has to be removed, and in this reaction what is going to happen? The citrulline is going to move outside. When the citrulline is going to move outside, the entire reactions, the initiation reactions for the urea cycle are taking place in the mitochondria. Okay, and so carmoyl phosphate synthetase 1 is present in the mitochondria of the hepatocytes. What is its site? Mitochondria. Carmoyl phosphate synthetase 2, which was involved in nitrogenous base biosynthesis, was present at the cytosol. It was present at the cytosol. So see this, it is not necessary that the two isoenzymes must have the same site. They can also have different site in the same cell, or they can have been present at the different tissues. हिंदी में समझ लीजिए. देखिए जरूरी नहीं है आइसोएंजाइम्स एक साथ में रहें, एक सेल में रहें या एक टिश्यू में रहें. वो तो अलग अलग सेल में भी हो सकते हैं और एक सेल में भी अलग अलग जगह पे हो सकते हैं. आइसोएंजाइम बल्कि कभी साथ में तो होते ही नहीं है. Okay, so isoenzymes are never working together because at a particular site only one enzyme is going to work. So carmoyl phosphate